Bryce, appreciate you coming and doing this, man.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So, first of all, we have a family connection.
We do?
We met, what, about 12 years ago?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess.
So,
longer.
Your
longer than it
grandfather's
seems.
brother
Mhm.
was,
My Gramps' brother Harold.
is my great uncle, he's also your great uncle.
Mm-hmm.
He's married to my grandmother's sister.
Yep.
We have a great uncle, and he loved music too.
Oh yeah.
Yes, he
Yeah,
did.
he did. Yeah, he and Gramps are two of the places I learned some of the old country songs that I
So-
still remember.
That's what I was going to ask you about your early influences.
Yeah, I mean probably them and my granny and Gramps, and then when I got into playing, we would definitely go to Harold and Jeannie's,
Yeah.
and I remember I still sing this old song called Karina Karina, and I remember Uncle Harold did that
That's right.
all the time, and I think he wrote his own verse or a verse or two
he did.
to it. So
Yeah.
so that was they were some of the first places, like Granny playing gospel, um, hymnal stuff on the piano, and then Gramps playing country stuff, and like their record collection. I remember they
Really?
had Merle Haggard stuff and Buck
Yeah.
Owens stuff. And
So you grew up listening to that stuff?
I did, yeah. Yes, I remember some of the first stuff I got into was like on my own, like heard it and was like, this is cool, and I want to hear more of it. Was stuff like the Everly Brothers and Ricky
Really?
Nelson,
Okay.
and like even like stuff that was I guess kind of old even then, and nobody my
Yeah.
age was listening to.
No,
But
same,
that's
because it was old whenever I was a kid.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So who was that was listening to that you found it? Your parents or?
Probably some of it was like Granny and Gramps' record collection. Some of it was starting to get into music and hearing it in a movie or something, or hearing it, or like seeing in those old Time Life music ads or whatever, and I'd hear a piece of like do you believe in magic or whatever, and
But
was
you
like,
weren't playing yet at that time. It
Not-
just sparked your
not
ear.
really. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just kind of. I didn't really start playing until. Man, I got my first guitar when I was 10, something like
Yeah.
that, but didn't really get into it till 12, 13, 14.
Was there
so.
anybody else playing around, or you just?
I mean, a bunch of people played. Nobody did it for a living,
Right.
but my Gramps played. Granny played in church some, and Uncle Harold sang. My Uncle Red played, and his wife Minerva, she sang and they wrote, and so everybody kind of did it I think kind of how everybody used to. Like it was something you worked in the field or at the job
Right.
or whatever all day, and then that was something that it wasn't like just like entertainers did this. It's like you go home and you do that, or the family gets together and you do that, and instead of watching TV or something like that. So
What was the first guitar you had?
I had a little youth 3/4 size gut string. Like that was the first one I got that I actually still have, and loaned it to somebody that I'm giving some guitar lessons. And first good one I got was like a Martin. It was another acoustic, like a Martin DC-16, something like that.
Yeah.
So, and then the first electric I got was I don't remember what it was actually, but it was some kind of Telecaster, like
Really?
some kind of cheaper. It was decent, but some kind of red Telecaster that is probably why I still play Telecasters now.
Really?
Just because that's.
And plus,
I know what
they have
they
their
do,
own special
so.
little thing.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So, whenever I first met you, and I was standing there talking to you and your wife, and she had met you playing music,
Mm-hmm.
because she plays too. She's a real good fiddle player.
Mm-hmm.
She said one of the first things she said to me is you were that bluegrass boy. That you was that bluegrass kid. So you were heavily influenced by bluegrass too.
Yeah, I was into that stuff. I wouldn't say I was ever like one of the bluegrass virtuoso kids that
But you
could,
loved it.
I wasn't a Billy Strings or
Right.
whatever, um, but yeah, I was into that
Yeah.
stuff. Um, and yeah, probably like when we met, I don't even think I know I didn't even have an electric guitar. I had an acoustic guitar and a mandolin, so I definitely probably leaned more into
When you
acoustic
met her,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, what brought you from? Was it just natural progression, or was it your grandpa and Uncle Harold that kind of helped you? Because Harold was heavily into the old classic country too. He was, I mean, he was an old man, and
Oh yeah.
he lived to be almost 100 years old.
Yeah.
And he introduced me to a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
because he was just so enthusiastic about music, like you and I.
Yeah.
And so I loved everything he did, and but he was into early Merle Haggard and
Yeah.
all that stuff, and so did that help you, like his brother, your grandpa?
Yeah, they're, I'm sure, definitely the place where I, heard all that stuff and like really, developed a love for it or whatever.
Right.
I mean, there is, um, I don't exactly know why. Like in the like early or mid '90s, whenever I grew up or whatever,
Yeah.
like I don't think anybody was really, or no teenagers or
Yeah.
kids were really listening to that. So I don't really know why, other than I mean, I'm sure some of it was always thought my Gramps and Harold were cool. I don't
Right.
think I ever had the thing where I was like, meh, or not, maybe not till later, and I got on the road and
Yeah.
whatever. But I never really had the thing. It was like, man, they're not cool, and I don't want to listen to that. I was
Right,
like, oh,
yeah.
they're cool, and that sounds really cool or
Yeah,
whatever. So.
I always felt the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I liked everything Harold did. I always thought he was
Yeah.
cool,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm sure they're a big part. Yeah, really like going through their records and finding
Yeah.
Buck Owens and Merle Haggard. Like
Yeah.
for some reason that I just got into that stuff. And
Mhm.
Willie Nelson was probably one of the first um, guys I got super into, um, and I mean probably. I mean, for the longest time, I was like, I'm just gonna play a gut string guitar, a classical guitar, like, and be like Willie or
Right,
whatever.
yeah.
And then, you know, found or got a steel string acoustic and found Telecasters
Yeah.
and amps, and was like, oh, well, amps are kind of cool. Like,
Yeah. Well, thank goodness you did.
yeah.
So, how did you get the Aaron Watson gig?
I got the Aaron gig. Well, I've been with him about 4.5 years now, so I started kind of in the middle of 2020, and I got it. I mean, I've kind of known some of those guys for 15 or 20 years. Some of those guys have been with him. The fiddle player, Damien, and the bass player, John Dan, they've been there, I think, 16 years now. And so I've kind of known them and opened for them when I was in other bands. And,
Oh, okay.
but then I like really got to know, like his drummer Nate and I kind of ended up doing a bunch of recording sessions together, and we've been on some other gigs together. And so when that gig the Aaron gig was kind of changing, and they were looking for somebody. Nate called me and was like, yeah, I'm kind of have a job, don't totally have a job. It's 2020, so
Yeah.
kind of all of us kind of had jobs,
Yeah.
but kind of didn't. So yeah, really through Nate, like he kind of suggested me and basically just told Aaron, he's like, this is probably the dude we should hire. And Aaron's like, okay, cool, we'll just call him. And
So he's a pretty laid back guy, Aaron?
yeah, for the he's a good guy to work for, and yeah, he was, super cool about all that. I mean, he called, I think I was out running one day or something, and he called me, and I talked to him for like an hour, and that's really all there was to it. I showed up to his house. He's like, okay, we've got a gig, like we start back to work July something, and so come to the house the night before and I'll make burgers and we'll play through the set a little bit and then get on the bus and go. And
So that was it. Just
that
one
was it.
rehearsal
I never
and-
really
and thrown into
auditioned
it.
and yeah.
Was you already familiar with his music, or?
Yeah, I was familiar with his stuff. I'd heard it
Yeah.
I mean, he's been doing it 25 years. So
It's crazy.
so yeah, I've definitely was familiar with a lot of his stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, still had to was still definitely like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and listen to the board tape and then compare it to studio recordings and try and find a live YouTube video and then, you know, kind of what I always do on stuff like that to, you know, to make sure I'm getting it, like the song as close to how they're used to hearing it, at
Right,
least at
yeah.
first. Like once we're, like at this point, I kind of get away with doing some different
Yeah.
stuff and Aaron's cool with it. So.
Yeah. So,
But-
have you recorded any with him, or?
I've recorded, I think just in the 4.5 years I've been with him, I've been recorded on 3 or 4 records with him.
Oh.
I played a song or two, did a couple Christmas things with him that are, when they re-released his Christmas record, they put those on there. So a couple things on there, a record called Unwanted Man, I'm on that. A record called Cover Girl, where he picked all like female country rock pop artists that he
Really?
liked and kind of reimagined the songs.
Really?
And so I'm playing acoustic on that, and yeah, then a couple other things that some are out, some aren't out yet, but yeah, a decent bit I've recorded with
Oh,
him.
that's
So.
cool. Does he write his own tunes, or?
Yeah, he writes all his own stuff.
Really?
Yeah, he'll go back and forth to Nashville a decent amount and writes with some people there, but yeah, for the most part, like 90% or more of his stuff is all him.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the back of the bus or on his ranch, like
Right.
writing the
So,
stuff.
do you ever get to help with any of that? Contribute, or?
I mean, I've definitely been. Normally, when I'm coming in to help, it's kind of like arrangement stuff, or you know, might make a chord suggestion or
Yeah.
something like that. But yeah, I've definitely gotten to, you know, really kind of hear it from when it starts. Like, you know, you hear him working on something in the back of the bus to when. You know, I'm listening to it when it's all done and charting it, and then kind of editing some things for the, you know, going in the studio or whatever, and you know, to when it comes out as a single.
So, do you read music too?
Not really. If it's, I definitely can't sight read. Like I
Yeah.
know that every good boy does fine
Yeah.
and face, and so I kind of can,
Yeah.
but not where I could make it sound like music. So
Yeah, I can't at all. So.
yeah.
So, as far as your early guitar influences, who were those?
Well, like on those Haggard and Buck Owens records,
But now you got no effects.
all I need is reverb. That'll work. Yeah, that's cool with
I
me.
wonder what that. What's going on there? So, Buck Owens.
Yeah, so yeah, those were some of the first guitar influences. Were Don Rich and Buck on
Yeah.
some of the those records.
He
and
can
then,
play.
Yeah. And then on Haggard records, like James Burton, Roy Nichols, Willie Nelson was a big one. I
Really?
think because I had a gut string acoustic, and that's what he played,
Yeah.
and I could relate to it. And I found back before there was all the YouTube stuff, I found like a guitar tablature songbook with all the Willie songs and solos, and learned them all. So, yeah, those were some of the first folks. Pete Anderson was another big one. Like
Right.
I got kind of from the older stuff, like got into like I was also into 80s, 90s country stuff
Yeah.
and listening to the radio then, and so yeah, Pete Anderson, like probably through the Buck Owens and Merle Haggard, like kind of naturally progressed to Dwight Yoakam and you know Alan Jackson and stuff like that, and so Pete Anderson, Dwight's guitar player, was a big one.
Yeah, Dwight's never been the same since Pete was
It's
out.
he's always had great players,
Yeah.
but it's always been different. The records have always
Yeah.
been different because Pete had such a
Sound.
fingerprint
Yeah.
on all the
Exactly,
records.
yeah.
Like
Yeah, he really knew how to play over those tunes.
yeah,
Yeah. I love Pete Anderson.
yeah. All my favorite Dwight records, really like the first 20 years or more
Right.
of Dwight was
Was
Pete
with Pete,
producing
yeah.
all that. So
Yeah, and he was great.
mm-hmm.
Me and you used to play that together all the time.
Oh yeah.
Just play some lead. Nice. Love that stuff, boy.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite Dwight records. Was Buenas Noches from
Yeah.
a Lonely
I
Room.
love
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have Paco playing on Austin
Oh
City
yeah,
Limits.
Flaco Jimenez. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good stuff. So, all my videos that I've been teaching on the YouTube, been trying to express the importance of a major scale, major key. Because whenever I started off learning minor
Oh yeah.
because I was more about rock and metal.
Yeah.
So I learned minor first and then major. Once I learned major, I thought, man, that would have been so much easier if I'd learned that first. So what's your opinions on the importance of the major key?
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, yeah, both are necessary. Like the major, minor scale, blues scale kind of stuff. Yeah, probably where if I was helping somebody with guitar, like I would probably show them a major scale first, and I mean also because if you're gonna learn notes or numbers, not like Nashville number system or
Yeah.
whatever, that's a good. It kind of all goes together really, really good. Like, you know, I mean like you're learning the notes and a major scale, but then you're also learning that you can turn that into that's a 1, that's a 2, that's a 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, and then, you know, whatever kind of 7, flat 7,
Yeah.
or, you know, so yeah, I would think that's always a good place to start. So
Yeah, and once I figured out, I was like, oh, now all of a sudden modes make sense. Everything makes sense. Because before I knew the major key, then I just thought, well, I've got like 10 million scales to learn.
yeah,
Once I learned they all fall underneath that umbrella, then it made everything a lot easier.
yeah.
So when you're teaching somebody, is that where you kind of start from, is getting them, if you take them from ground zero to, you know, if you're taking them all the way, would you start with that after some chords and stuff like that, start basically with a major.
That's where I would start. I mean, yeah, I kind of just started helping a couple, church friends out with some, kids that kind of want to get started, and so we're not even to like that point necessarily yet, but that's where I would where I would go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot you can do just if you know your major scale in each
Right.
key. Like, there's a lot you can do with that.
Help you visualize the fretboard and the.
Yeah, and then when you throw in, minor scale or blues scale or whatever, that just, you throw those two in with just knowing where chords are up and down the neck, and
Right.
it kind of, and where you can, you have a major scale there or there, like then I feel like you can kind of start looking at the neck like, okay, well I know what happens here or
Right.
what this does or whatever. So
Yeah.
I think that makes sense to me as a good place to start. So
When you were learning all this stuff on your own as a kid, what was your daily? Did you have like a set practice routine, or you just played as much as you could?
I just kind of played all the time and drove everybody nuts. I mean, I've never. Yeah, my wife Brandy's like. I mean, she's educated and went to school and knows how to practice. Like actually
Yeah.
sit down and, like really like go in there with a designated amount of time and goals and get it done. And I just kind of have always just noodled. Like, I probably practiced like specific things more when I was a kid or younger because I had, like when I had guitar lessons, I went to Temple Junior College for one semester, like just long enough to take some lessons from Reese Lyles
Yeah.
and John Pino, the classical
Yeah.
guy
So
there.
I took with John too, and
Yeah.
then, of course me and Reese are the same age, so I met him after. But I did the same thing. I went to Temple College and studied, and
Yeah.
and I studied with John. Of course, like you, I'm sure, hung out and listened to Dennis play at Heart
Oh,
of
yeah.
Texas all the time and all them. But yeah, Reese was that guy around here that was my
Yeah.
age group. That was that guy,
Oh yeah.
But I haven't seen him in a long time. But yeah, he
Yeah, I
was,
haven't either. But I stole quite a few things from Reese. Yeah,
Yeah.
I learned a lot in lessons with him, and even just a semester with those guys.
Yeah.
Reese helped a lot with, kind of what you're talking about, like scale stuff and like actually learning some things. Like before that, I kind of just learned on my own or with, playing with my gramps or like great aunts and uncles and really I just kind of back when I had more like when you're a kid and have more free time, like I would just sit and learn an entire record. Like I would
Yeah.
just
so
listen to Redheaded Stranger
Right.
and learn every song on Redheaded
Were you that
Stranger.
note for note guy, or
I've
did
never-
you just try to?
Not really.
Yeah.
I've never been I was probably more into that when I was a kid, like, because it's kind of cool when you can make that exact same
Yeah.
sound. But I've really never been, like, the note for, like, I'm not the dude that transcribes solos or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, nah, man, that's just how they played it once. Like,
Yeah.
nobody was...
Especially Willie. I mean, he's
Yeah.
never going to do it the same way twice.
No, he never did.
No.
And all those records that I like, that's... I mean, we've made like to think they're like sitting there laboring over each note and stuff.
Yeah.
They're not.
No,
Like,
they're making music.
They, were playing through whatever amp was there
Yeah,
and
that's
whatever
right.
guitar they had, and that's a take.
Yeah.
Like they got a take that felt good, and they didn't necessarily. They didn't worry about all the like tuning and timing things
Yeah.
and whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've kind of always been more of the mindset of like if it's really important stuff, like I'm gonna learn the parts.
Yeah.
And there are parts that need to be there, just like the record, and signature licks that need to be there and people are queuing off of. But also it's kind of like, well, we're playing music. Like I don't want to just I don't want to just play the same thing
Right,
every
yeah.
night, 150 nights a year.
That's what
So,
we have AI for.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've always noticed that one of the first things that made me gravitate towards your playing was me and Angela. The first time we met, we came into that little bar there in Salado that lasted for like 8 minutes, and you were playing with Larry and all them.
Oh, that place.
And I had my back to the stage. I heard you playing, and I said, "Now, that guy's good," because it was your sense of melodic phrasing. You weren't just noodling through scales and stuff. You were making music.
Well,
So
thank you.
you think that that comes from a lot from listening to Willie? Because
I think so. Like,
and Pete, of course.
yeah, those. Well, yeah, Pete it was really great at. I mean, he would do some gnarly, shreddy.
Yeah.
Not really shreddy, but like, in your face stuff.
Yeah.
But he had great hooks
Yeah.
and memorable. I mean, there's like I don't necessarily listen to those records every day anymore, but I can still remember
do, yeah.
all those solos and
The
signature
second I
licks.
hear it, I know that's Pete. Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of it's Willie because Willie, I mean, he's not just playing the straight melody line of the song, but a lot of times it's pretty close.
Yeah.
And it like really, I remember it really making sense to me at the time as, like kind of a cool combination of like, okay, well he's playing the melody line, like he's kind of treating the guitar like, a vocal or whatever.
Right.
And then he's like filling it in with these little, these other little things that aren't the melody,
Yeah.
but still really cool things. So
Very, of course, he's got his jazz roots from listening to Django.
yeah,
And so he'll throw in a lot of those little turnarounds.
yeah.
And you do that a lot too. Do you have like a firm background in jazz listening, or you
Not
just
at all.
really?
Like Django,
Yeah.
I loved that stuff.
Yeah.
I got into that, and well, really, probably 20 years ago, Brandy got me a Django box set
Right,
at some
yeah.
point, and like back before we were married, and we were just in a band together and would trade music and stuff, and so yeah, Django, like I thought all that stuff was cool, and you
Yeah.
can definitely hear the,
Yeah.
like the stuff Willie steals, like the
Oh yeah.
like all the
Yeah.
like the chromatic-y kind
Right.
of stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. He was definitely influenced by him.
yeah, I'm not like, man, I like some jazz stuff, but I kind of like a while back like accepted like if I was gonna get good at it and learn it, I would have done it like
Yeah.
by now. So I kind of at the end of the day I kind of like songs, but
Right.
like not that those aren't songs, but like
No, I know
singer
what you mean,
songwriter
yeah.
songs,
Right,
like
yeah.
like Willie did, and Dwight Yoakam and
So give me the Carter
You know.
family any
Yeah,
day. There you go.
yeah.
So I mean, they pretty much started it all.
Yeah,
If
pretty
you
much.
look at them and Jimmy Rogers.
Carter family and Jimmy Rogers, yeah, Jimmy Rogers. That really some like actual Jimmy Rogers recordings, but then really that Haggard record where he covered all
Oh.
same train,
My,
different
my
time.
favorite Haggard record.
Yeah,
And
my grandparents had that. It was a double record.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember listening to that like
Yeah, I
all
mean,
the
and
time.
that album goes way back. That's like 68, not
Yeah.
69.
I think it was
James Burton on the guitar.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was like, what was it, like Capitol era Merle Haggard
Yeah,
or something?
yeah,
So
when he
like
was
mid
really
late
good,
60s, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you have an Uncle Red,
Mm-hmm.
and I have an Uncle Red, my grandfather's brother,
Okay.
and he was one of the best guitar players I ever heard. And
Mm-hmm.
like him and his brothers kind of got a little famous there in the 60s, and then the lead singer, the middle brother, got sick with cancer, so they quit for a while. But Red knew them all. They used to play there with Buck Owens and Merle Haggard whenever Merle Haggard first came to the scene. And Red would play with Merle a lot. And that was when Merle was fresh out of prison.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh,
way
that's
back,
cool.
yeah. And that was before Don Rich was with Buck.
Oh wow, yeah.
And then my Uncle Red, he became real good friends with Carl Perkins. Carl Perkins lived at his house for a while, so I got
Oh, really?
pictures of the whole band with my Uncle Red
Mhm.
sitting on his couch. But Carl and my Uncle Red got into a fist fight. My Uncle Gerald told me it was vicious.
Oh, I'm sure.
Once they were done, they just were done. Went back to
Yeah.
playing. But yeah,
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
think
great guitar players
yeah.
in there.
Yeah, I think that scene. I mean, they may have all looked like clean cut,
Yeah.
wearing suits, like
Yeah,
good wholesome country
Yeah.
dudes. But I think it was pretty
that's right.
rough.
Yeah.
Like,
All of them,
yeah.
they beer drinking,
Mhm.
cigarette smoking,
Yeah.
rough dudes,
Mm-hmm.
but they could play, and they made some great music.
Oh yeah.
Because when Buck, and that was whenever they were in, they weren't in California, they were the Kansas City area, wherever,
Mhm.
and Buck and all them, Buck was the man, is what my great Uncle Red said.
Yeah.
Everybody in town looked up to him and thought he was it.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah. Buck. Well, he was I mean, he did something really unique musically, and like, the whole like making his records in a way where like they're really bright and
Yeah.
high, like kind of high indie, where they'll like cut through
that
and
back pickup,
yep.
yeah, and then reverb,
Mhm.
Yeah. Just like you said, he didn't need much more than
Yeah.
that.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of old videos where you can see Buck and Don just plugged into the same
Yeah.
twin or bandmaster or
Yeah.
something, and
That's right.
just two Sparkle
go.
Telecasters, like
How
going
nice
for
would
it.
that be?
So, yeah.
Just show up, plug in,
Uh-huh.
and go. That's why I use this katana. It's the
Oh,
same
yeah.
premise, just plug it up and play.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's why I end up changing pedal boards and stuff up all the time, because like anytime I feel like, I'm getting too dependent on this or that effect, I'm like, I should like dial it back to like see how little I can do a gig with
Right.
or whatever, and then I'll do that for a while and then be like, well, like how much can I do a gig with?
it's basically the same thing Red Volkart told me.
Yeah.
He said that sometimes he'll just go without, he uses a show bud now, like I've got one over there.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, and the steel guitar,
Yeah.
and he's got the reverb in it,
Mm-hmm.
and he said he'll go, and he records it in, back at the start of COVID when they were playing a lot over. He plays at the Floyd Country Store since he moved up
Oh,
there,
yeah.
and he would just use his straight into the. He says just to make sure he can still play.
Yeah. It is a good test. I
Yeah.
mean, because I love effects,
Yeah.
but they can, they can become a crutch. Like if I can't
Right.
do a gig with,
Yeah.
straight into an amp, then I'm probably more concerned about the effects than my playing or whatever.
Yeah.
So